Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into the world of Noam Chomsky, a name synonymous with intellectual dissent and challenging the status quo. Seriously, this guy's been shaking things up for decades, and his ideas about power, language, and the human condition are more relevant than ever. Think about it. How often do we just accept the narratives fed to us by those in power? Chomsky encourages us to question everything, to dig deeper, and to recognize the systems that often work against the interests of everyday people. So buckle up, because we're about to explore 4 of Chomsky's most impactful books that really encapsulate his worldview. Get ready to have your assumptions challenged. Our journey begins with Understanding Power, a book that pulls back the curtain on how power actually operates in society. This book is not just a theoretical exploration, it's a practical guide to recognizing and challenging the forces that shape our world. It's not always as simple as one person or group dictating to everyone else. Power is often more diffuse, embedded in institutions and cultural norms that we might take for granted. Chomsky, through conversations with activists and scholars, reveals the subtle ways in which power structures maintain their grip. These discussions are eye-opening, showing how even well-meaning individuals can perpetuate systems of control. One of the most crucial concepts explored here is the idea of manufacturing consent. This concept is central to understanding how public opinion is shaped and manipulated. Think about it. We're constantly bombarded with information from the media, from politicians, from all directions. This constant stream of information can overwhelm us, making it difficult to discern truth from propaganda. Chomsky argues that this information isn't neutral. It's carefully crafted to shape our perceptions and ultimately influence our behavior. The media, in particular, plays a significant role in this process. He shows how media, often portrayed as a neutral observer, can actually function as a powerful tool for the elite to maintain their control. This insight challenges us to question the sources of our information. It's not about outright censorship, but rather a more insidious form of control through shaping the narratives we consume. This subtlety makes it even more effective and harder to detect. But here's the thing, Chomsky doesn't just leave us feeling powerless. He provides tools and strategies for recognizing and resisting these manipulative tactics. Understanding Power is also a call to action. It encourages us to become active participants in our societies rather than passive observers. He emphasizes the importance of grassroots movements of ordinary people coming together to challenge these entrenched power structures. These movements are the bedrock of democratic change. Think about the power of collective action, of people uniting around a shared purpose. This unity can create a force strong enough to bring about significant change. History is full of examples where grassroots movements have toppled dictators, shifted public opinion, and brought about real, lasting change. These examples serve as a testament to the power of the people. Chomsky reminds us that we're not just passive recipients of information and power, we have agency. This agency is our greatest weapon against oppression. We have the ability to think critically, to organize, and to demand better from those in power. This critical thinking is essential for any meaningful change. It starts with questioning the narratives we're told, seeking out alternative perspectives, and engaging in open and honest dialogue. This dialogue can pave the way for a more informed and active citizenry. It's about recognizing that change doesn't happen overnight. It requires patience, persistence, and a long-term commitment to the cause. It requires sustained effort, a willingness to challenge the status quo, and a belief in the power of collective action. This sustained effort is what ultimately leads to transformative change. Understanding Power is a roadmap for those who dare to question and seek a more just and equitable world. It's a guide for anyone who believes in the possibility of a better future. In Imperial Ambitions, Chomsky turns his critical lens towards U.S. foreign policy, particularly in the aftermath of 9/11. He delves deep into the motivations and consequences of the actions taken by the U.S. government during this tumultuous period. This book, structured as a series of conversations with journalist David Barsamian, dissects the war on terror and its implications for global politics. Through these dialogues, Chomsky provides a comprehensive critique of the policies and strategies employed. Chomsky argues that the events of 9/11, while undeniably horrific, were used to justify a pre-existing agenda of expanding U.S. military presence and influence around the world. He suggests that this tragic event was manipulated to serve broader geopolitical goals. He challenges the narrative of the US as a benevolent superpower acting solely out of self-defense. Instead, he posits that the US often acts out of self-interest, cloaking its true intentions in the guise of protecting freedom and democracy. Instead, he points to a long history of US interventionism in the Middle East and elsewhere, often driven by a desire to secure resources, maintain strategic advantage, and shape the global order according to its own interests. This pattern of behavior, Chomsky argues, is not new, but has been a consistent feature of US foreign policy. One of the most unsettling aspects of Chomsky's analysis is his examination of how language is used to justify these actions. He meticulously deconstructs the rhetoric employed by political leaders and media to shape public perception. He argues that terms like freedom, democracy, and national security are often deployed as rhetorical tools to mask the true intentions behind US foreign policy. These words are used to create a narrative that garners public support and stifles dissent. Think about it. How often have we heard these terms used to justify military interventions, drone strikes, or the toppling of regimes? These actions are often presented as necessary for the greater good, but the reality is far more complex and troubling. Chomsky urges us to look beyond the rhetoric and examine the actual consequences of these actions. He encourages a critical examination of the outcomes, rather than accepting the official narratives at face value. He argues that the war on terror, far from making the world safer, has often had the opposite effect, destabilizing regions, creating power vacuums that breed extremism, and causing immense human suffering. The human cost of these policies is often overlooked in mainstream discourse. Imperial Ambitions is a sobering reminder that the narratives we're told about our country's role in the world often don't align with reality. It challenges us to rethink our understanding of global politics and the true impact of our nation's actions. It's a call to question the justifications given for military action, to consider the perspectives of those on the receiving end of US foreign policy, and to demand a more just and peaceful world. Chomsky's work serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of critical thinking and active engagement in the pursuit of truth and justice. In What We Say Goes, Chomsky continues his conversation with David Barsamian, delving deeper into the concept of US exceptionalism and its role in shaping global affairs. This book is a compelling follow-up to their previous discussions, offering a more nuanced understanding of how the US positions itself on the world stage. He challenges the notion that the US operates by a different set of rules, that it's somehow exempt from the standards of international law and human rights that it often preaches to others. This double standard is not just a theoretical issue, but has real-world implications for global justice and equity. He argues that this sense of exceptionalism allows the US to act with impunity, to pursue its interests even when they conflict with the well-being of other nations and peoples. This impunity is often justified under the guise of promoting democracy and freedom, yet the outcomes frequently tell a different story. Chomsky provides numerous examples of this double standard in action, from the U.S. quote, "S support for authoritarian regimes that serve its strategic interests, to its willingness to disregard international treaties when convenient." These actions reveal a pattern of behavior that contradicts the values the U.S. claims to uphold. One of the most striking examples is the U.S. quote, "S history in Latin America, a region where it has often intervened directly or indirectly to overthrow democratically elected governments deemed unfriendly to U.S. business interests. These interventions have left a lasting impact on the political and social fabric of the region." Chomsky shows how this pattern of intervention has had devastating consequences for the people of Latin America, leading to instability, violence, and the suppression of social movements. The long-term effects of these actions are still felt today, contributing to ongoing struggles for justice and equality. He also critiques the U.S. quote, "S role in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, arguing that its unwavering support for Israel, often at the expense of Palestinian rights, has been a major obstacle to peace in the region. This support is frequently justified through a narrative of shared democratic values, yet it often overlooks the human rights abuses faced by Palestinians." Chomsky challenges the narrative of the U.S. as an honest broker in the conflict, pointing to its history of vetoing UN resolutions critical of Israel and its continued military aid to the Israeli government. This complicity has perpetuated a cycle of violence and hindered efforts towards a just and lasting peace. What We Say Goes is a powerful indictment of U.S. foreign policy, exposing the gap between its rhetoric and its actions. Chomsky's analysis forces us to question the moral high ground often claimed by U.S. leaders, and to consider the real-world consequences of their policies. Chomsky challenges us to confront the uncomfortable truths about our country's role in the world, and to demand a foreign policy based on principles of justice, equality, and respect for international law. Only by acknowledging these truths can we hope to create a more just and equitable global society. In Masters of Mankind, Chomsky broadens his critique to examine the fundamental structures of power within capitalist societies. He argues that the pursuit of profit, enshrined as the highest virtue within capitalism, often comes at the expense of human well-being and environmental sustainability. He traces the history of capitalism, showing how it has concentrated wealth and power in the hands of a select few, the masters of mankind, while leaving billions struggling to survive. Chomsky argues that this system is inherently unsustainable, leading to vast inequalities, social unrest, and environmental degradation. One of the key themes in this collection of essays and lectures is the idea of manufactured consent applied to the economic realm. Chomsky argues that the dominant narratives about capitalism, its supposed efficiency and ability to lift people out of poverty, are often carefully constructed to obscure its inherent flaws and injustices. He challenges the notion that there is no alternative to capitalism, pointing to historical examples of societies that have organized themselves differently, prioritizing collective well-being over individual profit. Chomsky argues that a more just and sustainable world requires a fundamental rethinking of our economic systems, moving away from the relentless pursuit of profit and towards a more equitable distribution of resources. Masters of Mankind is a call to action, urging us to challenge the dogma of capitalism and to imagine a world where human needs, not corporate profits, are at the center of our economic and political systems. It's a reminder that a different world is possible, but it requires us to question the fundamental assumptions of the current system and to fight for a more just and sustainable future. Noam Chomsky's work is a call to awaken from our slumber, to stop accepting the narratives handed down to us, and to start questioning the very foundations of power and authority. His books are not just about understanding the world, they're about changing it. So, I'm curious, which of these books resonated with you the most? What are your thoughts on Chomsky's ideas? Let's continue the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the minds of history's most thought-provoking figures. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep fighting for a better world.